You know what that is.
Oh, is that the same lady?
It's from,
I got a lot. It's gonna make me crazy. People here tonight.
they want to hear about City High.
What's that?
They want to hear about City High.
Is this like the
Oh, I left my
unveiling?
sweater in the other room. I'll have to get. Oh. Good evening. I call this Iowa City Community School Board meeting on Tuesday, July 24th, 2018 to order. My name is Janet Godwin, and I want to thank those in the audience, those watching on television, and those following on Twitter for joining us tonight. I'll start by introducing those at the table with me. Starting at my right, Superintendent Steve Murley, Directors Ruthina Malone, Phil Hemingway, Lori Rotland, J.P. Clausen, Shina Eystone, Paul Ressler, and Kim Colvin, Recording Secretary. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they need to complete a speaker form found at the table in the lobby and turn it in. During community comment, persons may speak to the board about topics relevant to the district. All community comment directed at non-agenda items and agenda items shall take place at the beginning of the meeting during the community comment section of the agenda. Before we get into community comment, I'd like to announce that we will be moving our broadcast of board meetings to YouTube. The switch to YouTube live stream will begin with the August 14th, 2018 board meeting. Announcements will begin playing on Channel 21, notifying viewers of the change on July 24th, 2018, and continue until the channel goes off the air in September 15th, 2018. The link to view meetings via the YouTube channel will be placed on the district's homepage as well as the school board section of the website. The announcement will also be placed in the news section of the district website as well as the news section of each school's website. A press release will also be released with the information and will be shared with all media outlets. So YouTube, here we come.
Quick question, Janet?
Yes.
So the channel itself is going away?
Yes, it is.
So then will you also post on YouTube things like the graduation that usually would be on there?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, community comment. First up, we have Sue Melliker. Following Sue, we've got Beth Knoller.
Hello. I'm Sue Melliker, and I live at 302 Morningside Drive, and I'm a lifelong Iowa Cityan. I graduated from West High. My father graduated from U High. My mother graduated from City High. My kids graduated from City High. So I am just simply here tonight to, I attended both of the public forums at City High to give input on the addition. And it was really exciting to be able to do that. I've only seen the artist rendering that was on Facebook, on the district website. But I do know that throughout those two forums, and I was only at two that I was aware of, there was community input that the aesthetics and the character of City High be highly considered with this addition. And, you know, I have friends and family that come from all over the country, and they walk by that building and they say, what is this building? I mean, they're really in awe because it's such a beautiful building. And all the additions to it have really incorporated the character of the original building into it, the Opstead Auditorium, the back of it with the science classrooms. And I just want to encourage all of you tonight, when you see the plan, I haven't seen it except for the picture. It doesn't look like, to me, the character of the building with the red brick and things like that are being considered. And I did make a few comments on the Facebook page, and one of the responses was, well, it's not in the front of the building, so it doesn't have to be cohesive. And that bothered me a little bit because, I mean, this decision, you know, think 40 years down the line here, maybe the school district buys all the houses on 4th Avenue, maybe they buy them all on Morningside Drive, and that addition will be on the face of the building, right? So I just want to really encourage you, when you're looking at the design, to question if you feel like it doesn't meet the character of the original building, please. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Beth, followed by Chip Hardesty.
My name is Beth Knoller, and today I'm going to talk to you about a very different topic. And my topic today is life skill courses. At the July 10th board meeting, there was a report on the groundbreaking of the Home Build project. I did not know that the program had been discontinued, so I was delighted to hear that at least it's starting up again. And I'd like to say a word on the behalf of this initiative and other projects such as the FFA program that was also mentioned at the last meeting. My son, who graduated from City High in 1996, yes, that's 22 years ago, still has tools from his home build time. We came to Iowa City after I completed my PhD program, and that was his first year in City High. I told him that I wanted him to take some mechanics and woodworking courses. Although he was an excellent student and could have taken AP classes instead, I directed him otherwise. I knew that when he got to college, he would get all the courses he needed that were necessary for whatever major he chose, but he would never get life skill courses. I wanted him to know how to fix things around the house and to be able to understand something about car mechanics. As an aside, I did my best as a mother. I taught him how to change a tire and to change the oil in his car, which I continue to do to this day, and I have 6,000 miles yet to drive before I do my next oil change. But back to the topic, my son went beyond my expectations and took a semester of welding, a semester of small engine repair, and 2 semesters of home build. At that time, graduating students who participated in the home build program were given vouchers to purchase tools depending on the number of semesters that they took. I am pleased to report that there is at least one vice president of a bank in Colorado who fixes his own lawnmower and repairs the window trim on their home. I highly encourage the life skill classes to be continued and given adequate recognition and publicity. As I was telling a friend and a former colleague how I planned to speak about this topic, she related about her 30-year-old son who deals with ADD and how he struggled in high school. But one area that he found affirmation and satisfaction was in the welding class. Due to his ADD, academic classes were demoralizing. There were a couple of teachers who saw his potential and encouraged him, but those words were few and far between. As his mother said, and I quote, "A child needs to succeed to feel confident. Sometimes as a parent, as in our case, it would have to come after leaving the classroom environment." Then she continued on, I quote, "As a parent and a former teacher, I was devastated when he dropped out of high school. However, as soon as he became old enough to join the Navy, he applied, but he was told that it required a high school diploma. He earned his diploma and spent 4 years on a submarine as a sonar operator. And after that, he turned his attention to the skies and now flies 747 cargo planes around the world." Here you have 2 very different cases demonstrating the effects of hands-on life skill classes that can benefit students. How many other untold and more dramatic stories are there out there waiting to be shared, especially by those students who are marginalized and never receive academic accolades? I encourage the board to make available more of these avenues where students can succeed and feel confident so that they too can become contributing members of society. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Chip, followed by David Engelstad.
Good evening. I have questions, and I know that this is not a dialogue, so you can take the questions and think about them and hope that you can answer them later. I'm the boys tennis coach at City High. The addition that you're going to hear about tonight is being built on those tennis courts, as you well know. And as you also know, there is a pending lawsuit, and that's one of my questions. I don't know what the status is of the lawsuit to open or close Hoover or keep the building open in any event. So possibly at some point in the meeting that could be covered. I had assumed that since the Hoover building was going to close in the spring of 2019, the construction on the replacement tennis courts would start as soon as it was torn down and the grading was done and so forth, and completed in the construction season summer, fall of 2019, so that the courts would be ready then for the 2020 season. I have been told now that there are a couple of roadblocks in that. One is finances. Apparently that those courts were dependent not on the bond issue, but on the 1 cent tax, apparently, that the legislature failed to enact. The other roadblock that I understand is the pending vote, that nothing can be done there on that site until the vote has occurred that is the apparent result of this lawsuit. The lawsuit strikes me as sort of a folly. We will vote on something, we'll vote on keeping an empty building open for almost nothing. I'm a former lawyer, and I was a law clerk to the Iowa Supreme Court, and if that issue had come up and I was a Supreme Court justice, I would have asked the lawyers, isn't this issue moot? In other words, whichever way we, the court, decide, what is the purpose, what is the remedy here that the people that are seeking to keep the building open want? If they want to keep an empty building open just for the sake of keeping it open, I guess that's an answer. It's not a very good one in my opinion. So those are the issues the questions that I have, and we can't talk about them right now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chip. David, followed by Tegan Reader.
Hello, I'm David Engelstad. I live at 303 3rd Avenue, so I'm right next to the tennis courts. I met with Mr. Murley, Dr. Murley, sorry.
No, it's not doctor.
Is it not Doctor? Mister? So I'm here to talk about trees. And I worked as a school psychologist for 36 years and for Grantwood AEA, and worked at West High and City High and many of the schools in Iowa City and many of them in Cedar Rapids. And so I know that schools have a different character. Each of them has their character. When you think about West High, you know, they have their character, and they're kind of, you know, what they're about and that type of thing. And City High is very historic in many ways. Our first school in Iowa City. And so I'm on this property, and we have these majestic trees, I believe, that are right behind my property line. And I think I heard that they were going to be removed. I don't know that for sure. But in keeping with the character of City High School, I think majestic trees are an integral part of that whole community. And again, I don't know for sure if they are moving to get rid of those trees and put some other ones up within this facility, but I would ask you all to, I don't know how your input is affecting this either, but I would ask you to think about that as part of, I mean, these trees are beautiful. I mean, they obviously add to the quality of the neighborhood that I'm within, and but I also think that they are something that is part of City High, and there's plenty of them that need to be removed in that area, and, but there are a few that should stay. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Up next, Tegan, followed by Shana Reader.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I am just here to just talk about the additions I saw on Facebook and just talking about the rendering that was shown. Me personally, as a student who has just recently graduated this past May, I would like to say that I really like the rendering of the schematic that was shown on Facebook and on the ICCSD website, and frankly I think it would be a wonderful addition to the school, having another outdoor space for students to enjoy in the fall and spring, and would definitely relieve some of the pressure of the library having to be a social space at the school. In my last year as a student, one thing that the students at the school were really wanting, but we couldn't quite create in the time that we had, was different space for students to study, enjoy, talk, socialize. That wasn't the cafeteria or the commons. Often that would be the library, which, it being a library, other students use it for studying, and it could get quite loud. People started to bring food in, and that sort of thing. So I think that it would be a wonderful outdoor space based off the rendering. My only concern that I saw based off the rendering, and I'm not sure if there was like something behind it or elsewhere, was a direct way for wheelchairs to get up to there coming in from the outside. Now, I am more than aware that there are multiple ways of navigating around. It's just I don't think it would be a very convenient path for people with wheelchairs to go from the front entrance or the side area. I feel like there should be a wheelchair ramp that would lead more directly towards the area where the rendering was showing, and that's just purely based off what I saw on Facebook. Beyond that, I very much appreciate the aesthetics of it. I feel like it is perfectly, I'm trying to find the right word for it. I feel like it's really in line with how the school is set up, and I feel like it would be an absolutely wonderful addition, so long as we can improve the ADA situation, or if it already has been and we just haven't been shown it. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Tegan.
I'd just like to thank you for your representation of City High, and your Red Dawn speech at graduation was very inspirational, even for those that weren't graduating. So, thank you.
Thank you. And following Shana, we've got Cindy Meis.
Please.
Meis, sorry. I was just announcing who is next.
Oh, I'm Shana Reader.
Yes.
Okay. My comment about the City High remodel is going to sound trivial, but it's going to affect contagious disease transmission, and therefore student and teacher attendance for a long time. In the new sinks that I've seen in the last few years in the restroom, they're long troughs. And while I bet it does a great job of minimizing energy consumption and water consumption, you have to beg these sinks to spit out any water. You can get a little bit of a dribble, and it's pretty cold, and getting soap to come out of there is also a negotiation. We're not getting at all close to having our 30 seconds of scrub-a-dub-dub in warm water with plenty of soap. The other issue that I wanted to mention is scheduling the City High Prom. Each year, the City High Prom is scheduled the weekend before AP tests, every year. After having kids in high school for the last 10 years straight, just got done. I can tell you that they don't sleep on Saturday night, and they sure don't make it up completely by Monday morning. They are definitely not at their best on Monday morning. So I hope you'll consider changing the standing date of the City High Prom.
Thank you. Cindy, and after Cindy, we'll have Mary Kate Pilcher Hayek. No.
Hi, I'm Cindy Meese. I live at 30 Hickory Place, East Side. My husband's a City High grad, and I have one almost sophomore at City High. I've had 4 students at or going through Hoover. And what I first and foremost want to say, I'm super excited about the enhancements and the investment into City High. I know everyone will never agree on the changes, but I'm excited, and any investment in that school will definitely be good for our school district. As a parent of 4 students who have gone through Hoover, though I love Hoover, I love the teachers there, and I love the experience we've had there, it's also time to say goodbye. There's a lot of things that are run down, and I've heard things about cockroaches and those types of things. We're just ready. We're ready to move on. But that's why I'm standing up here, is I am interested as a Hoover parent, it will affect just one of my children by the time it actually closes, is what the transition plan is for those students. So I will have a 3rd grader going into 4th grade, and I want to know what school he'll be going to. At this point, I assume and tell him Lemmy, but I don't really know that. My husband and I have no plans to move, but if we put our house up for sale, we wouldn't be able to tell the new owners what school their elementary age children would go to. So those are things that are important to me as an East Side parent as this transition and those improvements are happening. So with that, I've appreciated so much the work and the investment in City High. Go Little Hawks. And as a Hoover parent and Southeast parent, I just want to know what's going on with the East Side in terms of that transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Up next, Mary Kate.
Hello. I lost track of time, so I'm wearing my weeding clothes. I'm sorry. I just 2 things. First of all, the City High planning process. Thank you for having the meetings you're having. The last one at City High I thought was really helpful after I got the hang of reading those plans, because they're complicated to read, those site plans. But they were good at telling us about them. It was good for us to see the options, and I hope more people are looking at them so that you really do get a better idea of what the plans are. Another thing I learned at that meeting is that because my kids are little, I didn't understand the structural and functional challenges City High had. I mean, I'm not in the building enough other than for like sports camps and stuff. So it was really helpful to have the coaches, the teachers explain to us, like, hey, have you been to the girls' locker room? Or have you, different parts, especially functionality, that create challenges for learning. So that was helpful, and I think a lot of the people in the community aren't aware of those challenges, again, because we're not dealing with them every day. So thank you for making those available, and please continue as you are tonight to give us that kind of information. It's really helpful. The next thing I wanted to just mention is I know you're all really working on the redistricting of elementary schools, and I don't envy what you're doing, and I respect what you're doing. I think that it's going to be, well, I know, it's going to be a challenge. It's already been a challenge for this district to try to create equity, and no one has the answers, and you're going to just try to find the best route to equity. And I think that the community needs to understand that it's going to take you and all of us a lot of time and open-mindedness and a willingness to learn what equity means. A lot of us don't understand why it's important unless you've faced it in your school. You don't understand why it helps, or if you don't have equity, why it hurts and how it hurts. So you have a big burden, and this is to the board, but also to the administration. You have to do a lot of teaching, because all of us, I mean, I have even today had a conversation with Paul about this, and I didn't know something that I thought I knew. And I have tried to learn it. So we're just going to need a lot of help to understand our end goal, to understand what numbers we're striving for and how we're going to get there. And I know there's no silver bullet to get there. But again, to copy what Cindy Meese said, I'm a Hoover parent, and I'm totally on board with what you're doing with City High and the repurposing of our property. I'm also very antsy to find out where the kids are going. Having said that, I'm respecting your process and admire your dedication to it. please just make sure you keep us in the loop, especially the Hoover people, because we're feeling a little bit, we're feeling quite a bit anxious, obviously. We're trying to keep that anxiety away from the kids, and we can do that. But to the extent you can, let us know what's going to happen next. And thank you for your service. It's a thankless job, and you guys have a huge burden ahead of you right now, so thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kate. That concludes community comment. Next item is approving our agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve our agenda.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. I'm going to call and pull Appendix 9 so that we can have a discussion around the City High schematic design. Are there any other consent items directors would like to pull?
I just pulled 9 for a quick question.
I move that we approve the consent agenda minus item 9 and 12, appendix 9.
Second.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with directors Rotland, Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway abstaining.
And I just realized, Phil, I forgot to ask you about the review of the bills this last period. Did you want to comment on those before we go into the
Yeah.
pulled consent?
And the reason I abstained is because my brother-in-law's salary was on there, and I won't vote for my brother-in-law's raise, even though he lives under my house, under my roof. We had $6,600,000 worth of expenses, $885,000 out of the GO bond, a lot out of the physical plant levy, and all questions that I had were answered. We had a lot of special ed funding that was going out of the district, and some questions on since we were speaking with some people's comments on trees and the community comments, we removed some trees over by Lincoln and had some questions over that, but everything's in order.
Thank you, Phil. So item 9 from consent
Yes,
agenda.
item 9, and it's it's the puppet contract, and I've attended these, and I think they're a great outfit, and it's $600 per performance, but and nowhere in the contract does it state exactly how long the performance is. It's just 90 minutes for setup and arrangement and that type of a thing. So I just was curious if we had an idea exactly how long the performance was going to be for $600 per performance.
I can answer that, which I don't know. I'd have to ask Diane about that, so.
Well, just yeah, if you can get an answer, that'd be fine. Move to approve.
Second. Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is the City High schematic design, and I believe we've got BLDD here to provide an overview.
Can I ask a quick question since we pulled all of Appendix 9 before we get into the City High thing on something else?
Sure.
On Appendix 9? I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I just want to make sure I was doing it right as I looked through the change request for Longfellow. It's a pretty big number, right? And I just wanted to make sure I was looking at it right. I kind of took the design number and then the bid number and all of the change requests and added that all up together and compared that to the budget? I mean, is that a fair comparison, or is there numbers that I'm missing?
No, that's fair.
Okay, so it was a big number that stood out with Longfellow. I just thought I'd point out that I did all those numbers and was still like 1.2 million under the budget. So I was pleased to see that, which surprised me, to be quite honest. So I was concerned that I was missing something, because that was a big number as a change request. But
Well, we try to keep them all under budget, but the original bid on Longfellow did come in under budget, which allowed us some flexibility. We ran into 3 issues at Longfellow that had serious financial consequences. One was the soil itself. We've had it run into that everywhere we go in Iowa City. The soil here just isn't conducive to building buildings on it, and you have to spend more money on foundations. The other issue is the age of the building. We've had a lot of plaster work, ceilings and walls that we end up removing and repairing. And this last change order was for the stairwells themselves and the age, and we felt like we just had to remove some of the walls and redo them for the sake and the safety of the people in the building. So.
okay, thanks for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thanks for allowing us to give you a presentation on City High. I'm excited. I think we're going to address many of the questions that were posed here tonight and on social media and online and wherever else, and all the emails and phone calls we got. We put that picture out there just to kind of stimulate the interest, and we've had a lot of interest in City High. But it's my pleasure to introduce the design team to you, and it's a joint venture of BLDD Architects and Shiva Hattery. And Shiva Hattery is the mechanical engineer on this project. So they have Tim Fair on the far right, and in the middle is Gene Underwood, the project architect, and then Sam Johnson. And Sam, some of you may be familiar with. He led the initiative back in 2013 when we did the long-range facility master plan. So that was a community-oriented process, literally hundreds and hundreds of people and many, many meetings. And we've had several meetings at City, and Sam's led that process. It's been a good process, and I think you can be proud of what they've done. They're going to give you a presentation, then I'll talk a little bit about the budget, and then we'll have a little Q&A. Okay? So Gene and Sam, come on up.
Thank you, Dwayne. I'll have to step aside. You won't be able to see me otherwise. It's our distinct pleasure to be here tonight to present the concept for the renovations and additions to the City High School project. I'd like to start with a little bit of a background about the planning to get us to this point, to be able to make a presentation. There were 7 individual meetings that occurred so that we could feel like we had the information to inform a really successful solution. We started on February 8th with an initial meeting to the staff to make sure that they understood that they were an important voice in developing a successful solution. And then that evening, we had community input session number 1. We challenged people to help us understand the optimal configuration. We described the program, what the goals were. The program needs to be addressed in this project, and if they were to think about doing it, how would they do that? We got great input. That was then used to meet with students on the 27th of February, asking them for the same kind of input. On the 28th, we met with the staff. We are sort of refining through this process what we understand are the important points that will allow the project to be successful. On the 28th of March, the superintendent and I and a member of the facilities committee met with neighbors who would be directly impacted because of the proximity of the possible proximity of the addition. On the 4th of April was community input session number 2, where we'd taken the input we gathered, shown, sort of presented back. These are the important things in terms of site circulation, building location, circulation through the building, student access to programs, and then finally on the 2nd of May had a student and staff meeting to sort of refine these things that allow us to develop the schematic design that we'll be presenting here today. So a terrific amount of work that helped us understand what would be the optimal layout on this site. And so what you see today is the result of a lot of work, but it has an impact on the site in terms of relocating tennis and parking, as you heard previously. So those things are important for the successful solution. Obviously, how those get resolved is something that can't occur until after November, No design has commenced on that issue because, again, we need to wait for the outcome of that vote. So with that, let's see, we should have pulled this up so we could go on to the next slide. Okay. Schematic design is that part of the process, of a design process, where you understand how the building it looks in terms of its form, its character, how well it works within the existing context, where spaces are, how the size that they're given, and their approximate and their locations. For any schematic design to be successful, it needs to really work with 4 variables: function. We need to make sure that the goal of reinventing the student lunch experience, which was one of the goals that was really identified to make it more compatible with current designs in educational facilities, that we've created a functional solution that works. Same thing with all of our wellness programs, as well as service. Form, how well does our building, how well does it work within the context? Economy in terms of its cost, and time in terms of schedule. These 4 variables need to be satisfied. So I'm going to give just a brief overview of some of the challenges, and then Jean's going to dive right into the solution that's being presented. There are, no shortage of challenges, really, on adding to what is arguably one of the most beautiful high schools in the state and in the Midwest. We need to make sure that we have a design that is complementary, supportive, that works with the existing facility. But it also needs to reflect the importance of the work that is contained within those walls. It should have enough character to stand on its own, but be deferential to the original. That's what we feel is going to be a successful outcome. We have a number of issues. There's a significant elevation change across the site. And so one of the issues that's been brought up, and we'll show you the solution, is accessibility. How we navigate those changing evolutions so we provide access to all citizens. The idea of creating the student lunch experience as a common space, which Jean will talk more about, also means that it implies where we're going to have service and deliveries. And there's, on a site that is as tight as this is, that creates a number of challenges. I think what we have is a really strong solution that will support and enhance your programs and the architecture. And what I'd like to ask now is for Jean to walk you through that quickly.
Great, so we're going to start with an overall site plan view, just to get you oriented. I'm going to laser point on the screen to my left, so those of you on this side, I apologize. I know. So what we're looking at is an overall site plan of the City High campus. This is your current building with the black roof, outlined right here. The addition that we are showing is with this white roof down here at the south side. You can see off to the right is the softball field, your football field over here on the far right, your existing parking lot down here at the south side. So this is the main entrance to the existing school right here. All right, so we've zoomed in just a little bit on our site where we're actually putting the addition. So a few things that I want to point out on this one, as far as circulation around this part of the site. No, I did skip over overall site circulation. We're working with the fire marshal to make sure we've got fire lanes that go all the way around the building, fire access, those types of things. But I did want to zoom in and just talk about the immediate and talk about some of those issues that Sam mentioned with accessibility, parking, those types of things. So the existing parking lot and tennis courts are in this area directly underneath the addition. So what we're looking at doing is modifying the existing parking lot. We are losing quite a few parking spots with this. I believe that parking lot currently holds about 112, and it's going to be down to about 27 with the accessible parking here, as those do take a little bit more space. We're working through some details. Is there a way to create some more parking there, and kind of shifting that around as we go through design development. So that's in progress. You'll also see over here on the far right a new parking lot. So this holds about 55 to 57 parking spots. It will also have accessible parking on that side, but helps kind of alleviate some of the parking spots that we lost. This is the fire lane that I just mentioned that will come through the site right here. This borders the neighborhood to the south. We're swooping that road in just a little bit towards the building so that we can have a larger landscape buffer between the neighborhood and the school addition. So hoping to save as many trees as we can, but knowing that we may have to remove some, but go ahead and replace those and have that nice landscape buffer, which is also a requirement of the city. So we're certainly going to follow along with that. So the main entry to the building is up, well, one of the main entries. There's two that I'm going to show you. The first one goes to the upper plaza level. So we've got a large monumental stair. We come up to this plaza level, which is the same level as the existing gymnasium level. Below that level, we have a ground floor level as part of the addition. So we're building out, extending your existing, and then we're going a floor below that. So this plaza level is at the same elevation as the old gym, your existing competition gym. So along the front of the building, we're able to create a patio that connects the old gym, which is right here, to the plaza level. So that creates some great outdoor seating, but corrects an accessibility issue that we currently have at the exit of that old gym right now. In addition to those stairs, you're going to see a large sidewalk that kind of swoops around. This is also going to be an accessible path that is wheelchair accessible for getting to this entry as well as the old gym entrance. And so we're kind of solving two problems with one ramp. This number 6 that you see right here, this is the loading dock. So we do show access to the loading dock.
Why don't you start back where that number 5 is and show them how a wheelchair person...
Oh, sure, absolutely. So if you're parking in one of these accessible parking spots, you'll come up on the sidewalk right here. From either side, you'll be able to go up the sidewalk, come around here, and then you're up to this old gymnasium patio plaza level. You can come this way, enter the main plaza, and go right into the building. So that's the first option. The second option is the lower level main entrance, which is right here at this number 1. So it's halfway between the two parking areas, but this gives you direct access into that ground floor level. As soon as you come in the doors, you're in the main area. There's an elevator that will take you up to the upper level if you would like to go up, but we do have an accessible entrance right here. So if you don't want to go up the ramp, you don't have to. You can go in.
Where's the elevator you mentioned?
So the elevator is inside. It's right about here, kind of in the center of the building.
And what's the distance from like the first parking, handicap parking stall in 5 up around as opposed to going up the steps and going in?
You know, I don't have that number. I can get it for you though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if someone's, we've all been to big events at City High. Sometimes the only place you can park is Opstead.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's handicapped and over at Opstead, what's the distance from somebody coming over that way? And I know we're redoing the ramps on the Opstead side and everything that way, but what would be the distance and everything someone would have to traverse to get to there?
I don't know the answer to that either, but I can find out. Absolutely. You know, we always have the option to provide additional accessible parking spots, more than what the code minimum is. If we feel like there's not enough, we can absolutely provide extra.
Before we move on to that, off of that point, sorry, just above that number 1 too, I guess next to the new gym, that's the ramp to get into the school where the only school door is that you can buzz into during the day. Would be open. Every other door would be locked during the school day as well. So that ramp makes sense to go that way.
Right, so it would serve that as well, absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna go to my next slide here. All right, a couple questions that we had was where does the addition start? How does it relate to the existing building? So we threw these in at the last minute. I apologize. These are not rendered versions. These are kind of draft versions that we use in-house. But this is the front of the old gym. You can see the rest of the 3-story building off here to the left. And then the addition is going to start right at the edge of the locker rooms. So right on the side of the old gym, locker rooms, everything to the right, is going to be the addition. We're showing it in 2 different brick colors just so that you can see where it stops and starts. Those are not the actual colors.
The actual colors will match, just to be clear.
Absolutely. So you can see the roof of our gymnasium extends out across here. It's a little bit shorter than the existing gymnasiums, but we're starting down 12 feet lower to get up to that height. This is that main stairway. This is the entry tower for the addition. I think I've got another view here for you. So this is kind of a little bit more of an angle far away so that you can see the original old gym and then the addition off to the right, those main stairs coming down. This grading is not exactly modeled correctly, but it gives you a general idea of where the addition is down on the south side. So this is a bird's eye view of the addition. This gives you a little better idea of what the building design looks like on the south side that is facing the neighborhood. Because I know through the meetings that Sam and Steve had with the neighbors, there's a lot of concern that they didn't want it to just be the back side of a building. And so as design has progressed, we've taken that into account. So what you're seeing here in this front corner is the loading dock, which would be covered. You can see that lower level main entry, so the ground floor main entry is right here. This is the fire lane coming up the side. The gym, the new competition gym addition here with windows on all sides of it. Right behind the loading deck, you can see the upper level plaza, the main plaza, the entry tower. This is the upper commons, which we'll see when we look at the plan. And then right behind it, this is the old gymnasium, so the upper story windows. Sorry, I gotta roll out the keyboard tray. So as we start to turn around the corner a little bit, it gives you a little better idea of what that plaza looks like. So once again, we've got the loading dock here to the right of the main stair. So this is the main entry stair coming in, and we create kind of an access leading up to that entry. So the purpose of this plaza is twofold, is to create a designated visible entry sequence for events. You know where to go, there's no question in your mind, this is where I need to go in. But the secondary function is to provide an outdoor space for students during lunchtime, before and after school, a gathering space, so that they have somewhere that they don't have to be inside the building all the time. That fresh air makes such a big difference during the school day to be able to have that opportunity. So that was a high priority from administration, and we feel like this does a really good job of incorporating that. Below that plaza is the lower level of the addition. So that is actually constructed space underneath there. You can see the patio that leads in front of the old gymnasium that ties that all together with additional seating here. The idea here is to create a desirable space where people want to hang out. There's greenery, plantings, it'll be lit. So in the evening, you can have those lights on and really make a great statement. All right, so as you're parking your car and you're approaching the building, this is the view that you would have. So this is the line of where the old gym ends, and to the right of that, this is the addition. So as you're walking up, you know where to go. You see the tower element, you've got the stairs to kind of guide you on your way. The loading dock will have doors on it so that can be closed, so that we're not looking at a loading dock, garbage pickup, those types of things on a daily basis. Folks can pull in, close the door, and that's concealed.
So we're going to be storing the garbage inside the building.
We're still working through some of those details. We've gone back and forth on whether it should be covered, not covered, open air,
It's not
conditioned
inside.
space.
How does that fit with our IPM policy?
Well-
They wanted it 500 feet away from the building.
They did if it's an open air type of situation. I think we can control rodents and pests here a little bit better inside. But you're right.
All right, so let's go up onto the plaza level. So this view is as you've come up onto the plaza, you're facing down that access, or the axis, not access. So we're standing in that kind of half circle, looking back towards the building. You can see the variety of seating. You can see the stairs going up to the upper plaza deck here. The entry tower kind of welcoming you and kind of nodding its head towards the tower that you have on the existing building. We're showing it in kind of a low light situation, whether that's early in the day or late in the day. You can get a feel for what the design aesthetic is of that area. working with the administration on providing some really quick access doors to get between the interior and the exterior during lunchtime, but still maintain control of the building at all times and the security that goes along with it. So we're going to jump into plan view. And so this is the upper level. What you're seeing in green right here, this is the plaza that we were just standing on. As we come into the building, you can see we're in the entry tower element. In front of us is a 2-story open to below. So this is connecting the lower commons and the upper commons at this point. Come to the left, we've got our elevator, which will take us down to the lower level. And then we're inside of the upper commons. And so, you know, commons versus cafeteria, what's the difference? A cafeteria is strictly to serve lunch or breakfast. A commons is multifunctional, so it certainly does the cafeteria function of serving meals, but it also becomes a space for gathering, for students to hang out, for teachers to bring large groups of students to one area, so it certainly can be used for educational purposes throughout the day. But it can also be used for community functions by providing access controls at the doors to this addition. You can have community functions in these spaces as well. It's got the direct connection to the outside plaza as well, easy access to parking, all those types of things. And so when we think commons, we think multi-purpose space. Now, we've got an upper commons. I'll show you the lower commons in a minute. We still have the existing commons. That's not going away. That still serves an important function, and that space will stay. These are additional spaces, not replacement spaces. As we move through the commons, we've got some built-in seating. A variety of different types of seating are shown for students that want to be alone versus students that want to be in a group, to provide choice to students and for adults that may be coming for different functions. We've provided 2 connections to the existing building. So here in the center, which connects the old lobby between the 2 gymnasiums, but also connecting through the front of the old gym. So this traffic during lunchtime is approaching the addition to get to where they need to go to eat. We have 2 ways for students to get there, so we don't have that same bottleneck that we have now with only one way in and only one way out. So to help ease that congestion, we've provided those two different connections. Another thing you'll notice in the old gymnasium area, which I'm circling right now, we are converting the old gym into more of a fitness center. So it's an agility room. Dance and cheer will use that space. Some of the PE classes will use that space. So it's going from less of a traditional gymnasium more to a multifunctional space. So we'll be doing some minor interior renovations in there, but doing things like branding, installing a divider curtain so that multiple groups can be using the space at the same time. And then it will have a connection to the existing weight room. So we'll be opening up an opening in this stairwell so that we've got the weight room function tied to the agility strength training function, and then up above this locker room is the cardio room. So all of those functions will be tied together in one area. So students can move between the spaces, but coaches and PE teachers can supervise their students and not have to go very far to be able to supervise them. We're showing some renovation work in the PE locker rooms. We're able to kind of compress those just a little bit, still meet all of the functional needs, but add some additional storage, which was on the list of needs for those programs, for PE, for athletics, for all those different things. Over here on the top right, you'll see the athletic trainer space. So augmenting the space they already have by expanding into a couple of the spaces next door to meet their functional needs. Down here in the old wrestling room, we'll show you the new wrestling room in just a second here, converting that into storage, but also taking a chunk of that out for the mechanical room for the addition, so that will serve the addition, repurposing that space. As we come back into the common space, this is where we have one of the main entrances into the gymnasium. So this is the upper level gymnasium. You can see there's floor that goes all the way around the gym. We've got seating on 2 sides and then standing space on the 2 ends for circulation and for additional viewing. And I'll show you a view here of that gym in just a second so you can see what that's about. So as folks come in for an event in the gymnasium, they can come here, they can stop at the ticket booth if there's tickets being taken, or they can go right into the gymnasium They can sit on the bleachers at the upper level, or they can just walk down the bleachers to the lower level. They do not have to go down the main stairs into the lower level if they don't want to or don't need to. The other thing you'll see here is a large monumental stair that takes folks from the upper level down to the lower level, but also provides seating opportunity for students. So let's take a look at the next. Sorry, I'm going to knock you with this drawer every time. So this is a view looking from that entrance at the upper level of the gymnasium into the gym. So you can see the main playing court here. There's seating on all 4 sides of the gym, which was a really important feature to get, to kind of create that competitive advantage and what can we do to support our student athletes and create a space that tells them that they're important and gives them that energy to really perform at their best. So having the seating all the way around and creating and setting up these courts so that they're optimal for the student athlete was our goal. And to create a lot of team spirit and working with branding and environmental graphics to do that. So you can see we've got a college-sized court, which is a little bit longer than a standard high school court. We have space for 3 volleyball courts to be playing cross-court for their competitions. Also space for wrestling and a couple other sports that might need to use the space. Yes.
Can you speak to how someone with accessibility, can you speak to how someone with accessibility issues would navigate the levels in the gym room?
Absolutely. So we will have accessible seating scattered throughout the gym. So you have the option to sit in any of the seating areas that you so choose. If you enter on that upper level, you would there would be seating designated for you on either of these 2 sides on the upper level, or you could certainly locate yourself at one of the 2 ends without the built-in seating. If you were to enter on the lower level, we would have options for accessible seating all the way around the court on all 4 sides. If you wanted to get between the 2 levels, obviously the elevator inside, yep. So going down to the lower level or the ground floor plan, I'm going to start down here at the south end. This is the main entrance for the lower level down here at the south. As we come in, we've got a ticket booth immediately to the left. Come into that space. We've got the locker rooms kind of dividing us, the commons from the gymnasium. So we've got a main entry to the gym down here on the lower right side. Come in, you can go walk all the way around the gym to get to any of those spaces. We have a large storage room here on the east side, some smaller storage rooms, and some egress stairs. We do have a back entrance into the gym. This would be egress only during an event, but this provides access for coaches, referees, and some of the teams to get in this back entrance. So they don't have to come out into the commons and through the main circulation area. Student athletes can also get into these locker rooms right here directly from the gym at the center court line. So these locker rooms serve any of the sports that are going on here in this gymnasium and also in the wrestling room over here. In addition to that, they are sized to accommodate the boys cross country team, which currently has to share a locker room with football, which, as you know, they're at the same time, which creates a lot of problems at the existing facility. So we can accommodate that, girls and boys locker rooms down here. Over here on the left side of the plan, with number 1 is the new wrestling space. It accommodates 3 full-size mats. It has some built-in bleacher seating for the parents of the kids programs. Just to the south of that is going to be the kitchen and servery area. So this is the area where students will come to get their food. All the food will be prepared in this area. It's adjacent to the loading dock, and then we'll have concession stands and toilet rooms down here as well.
Have there been any discussions about opportunities for a student culinary kitchen or anything like that in this?
So not in this portion of the addition. By moving the kitchen and cafeteria functions to this part of the building, that opens up the existing kitchen and cafeteria space in the building for those types of programs to move into in the future.
Well, but that's on the far end of the school, and if you do have a student culinary kitchen, where they're gonna eat is on the other end of the school, and everything would have to be shuffled around. Looking at Des Moines Central, their culinary kitchen is glassed in, and it leads right into a cafeteria, or a cafe.
Right.
So you see the students working, and then you go and you can consume right there, so.
Right. Well, I think there's certainly opportunity to do a remote cafe area. So if students want to go to that program, they can absolutely go dine there for that day. It doesn't have to be necessarily located adjacent to this kitchen and eating area. Certainly, if we were building a brand new school, we may want to locate those next to each other. But with what we're doing with an existing facility like this, that may not be able to happen. Students would have to make the choice: do I want to eat here in the upper or lower commons, or do I want to go to that culinary program if it's located at that north end of the building? Well, yep. Let's see what I've got next here. All right, so this is a rendered view of the interior. So we're standing in the lower commons, not far from that main entry on the lower commons. You can see a variety of seating being shown here in this lower commons space. This is that large stair. You can see people circulating up and down, as well as it creates a seating area here for student use. Off to the right, this wall is the wall that is shared with the locker rooms, and then beyond that is the gymnasium. So our vision for this is that this is more of your Hall of Fame. So this is where you can feature images of your student athletes. If you've got featured trophies, memories, those types of things, those could all be featured in this area. So it's a little bit of a collegiate feel, glass cases, environmental graphics, branding, those types of things. Off to your left would be your serving area that's off the screen right now. But you can see it's a tall two-story space with some wood accents, but creates a dynamic space for students that they're really drawn to. All right, so this is the second floor renovation plan. So what we're looking at is that old gym. This is that cardio room that I was telling you about that's right above the fitness agility functions down below. So we've got some stairs that connect right down into that space. We're envisioning this as a glass wall so that there's a connection between what's going on up above and what's going on the down low on the floor. Coaches, PE teachers can see what's going on between the two. Some other projects that we have going on in the building that I just wanted to mention quickly. We're doing accessibility upgrades throughout the building. Over here in the auditorium area, looking at providing a lift to get to the upper lobby area. There's a long non-code compliant ramp that leads down this corridor, working on both of those issues. The current FCS classroom up on the very top floor does not have an accessible kitchen station, so that maybe is part of this project as well. We've got some toilet rooms down here at the old gym that are not accessible yet. We'll be upgrading those. And then the last item you see in red here are the existing athletic locker rooms. We're looking at doing renovations to those as part of an alternate bid. So if funds are available, like the project that you guys were talking about just a little bit ago where you're under budget, there's an opportunity to do some improvements like that here as well. So I believe that was everything.
All right, it's a lot to take in. We'll be happy to answer questions.
Well, it's before you do.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
All right, just a quick picture of the budget. It's right just below 30 million for this project. We, as you know, in the past, and we've done this job as well, we hire a professional estimator to give us updated numbers during the design process. Right now, that number is at 26 plus. I'd like it to be at 25, so we still have a little work to do, but we're at the right stage where we can start making changes and making those accommodations. And when we're at this stage of the process, there's a huge contingency in this. There's a 10% contingency for design, in addition to all that, a 5% construction. So we have room to work, and we're trying to pare that down. So I feel pretty good about it at this point in time. It's pretty typical to be a little bit higher with preliminary estimates. Not knowing what's going to happen to steel and things like that is kind of an iffy thing as well. But before we get into Q&A, I'd also like to introduce John Bacon to you, the principal of City High, and he has a few words that he'd like to share with you.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to first say thank you to certainly BLDD for their work, to our community, most importantly, for their strong support, to the board and to administration. We're all very excited about this project. I would echo the comments made about the process. I think has been very thorough and positive. We have definitely been able to receive a lot of input from community and stakeholders, and so I credit BLDD for designing a process that I think has led us to a positive result. They have also really demonstrated a commitment to aesthetics and to trying to make sure everything goes together. They're very cognizant of the fact that our building was named the most beautiful high school campus in the state of Iowa by national publication and 13th best in the country. They're very aware of that, and that's really out in front of everything they do, is trying to make sure that this syncs up nicely. I believe it's going to be an outstanding addition from a cafeteria commons standpoint. This will really improve the building environment during lunchtime especially. That is a significant improvement for us and something we're very much looking forward to. The athletic upgrades, court space, wrestling room, locker rooms will be equitable with West and Liberty. The air conditioning, HVAC renovations that will happen throughout the building, obviously most significant, very important. I do believe it is important that the district, and I know we're going to develop a plan to make sure that tennis courts, parking, and then I hope the conversion of the existing cafeteria to industrial tech type programming to get that back on campus. I think those are important projects to make sure that happens without too much of a lag, I hope, because that's important too. But all of this coming together, I think, really makes our already historic, beautiful campus just absolutely phenomenal. I think it's going to be the ideal balance of our classic historic beauty with modern functionality, and I'm just extremely grateful to everyone's work that's gone into this, and just want to say thank you again to our community and board and everybody else. So thank you.
Don't go away, John. You can help answer questions.
All right.
And one more side note I forgot to mention during the talk about the construction costs. Of that 25 million, right now we're looking at least 10 million that's going to be spent on infrastructure improvements. So it isn't all about the addition. There's a pretty significant part of this is just for the mechanical upgrades in this building. And what you may or may not be aware is that in 2005, we added 12 classrooms, we added air conditioning. In 2014, we added 6 classrooms, we added air conditioning. In 2012, when I first got here, we did the Fine Arts Edition. So there have been parts of this building that have been significantly improved along the way. So really what we're down to are those crux old classrooms in the building that need to have the air conditioning upgrades and mechanical. So we've set aside adequate money within this budget to do that. I just thought it was worth saying so that, you know, it's not all about that addition. With that, we'll answer any questions.
I'm sorry, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. As a parent of a student that recently graduated and being in that building, especially the cafeteria, I was extremely pleased to see that there's 2 points of access in and out. From a safety concern in the new America we live in, that's always have been sort of a point of concern. Going into the old cafeteria is like, great, I'm dead if something happens. I mean, that's just the fear, and I've had that conversation with students that there's only one way down there and one way up. So seeing that people can have that safety egress without it being blocked, that I really do appreciate that.
And to that end, have the police been consulted or someone from a public safety standpoint along that too? With there's a lot of glass up on the top patios areas, and as far as access, the number of doors we're adding to the facility and that.
Well, we've already put all the safety and security systems in place. We'll add to it for the new addition. As far as officials looking at it, I think the fire marshal is probably the only person that's had a first glance at it. Okay. But obviously, we'll put door access at all those locations. So.
Right. And I guess you did elaborate on as far as how spectators who have mobility challenges will access those areas and that, you're using, I'm assuming you're using a universal design consideration in the design of this facility. I've asked for some questions on participation and everything, and maybe, John, you can tell me this, but how will this benefit our special needs students and opportunities for Special Olympics or para-type veterans with mobility challenges in our community using this facility?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, number one is I think we're going to have more spaces available. Court space is at a premium. It's very difficult. We have a number of community groups that are seeking court space, so we add court space here, and that will allow us to program for more people that are seeking that space. Certainly that could include Special Olympic groups. It's difficult during, let's say, the winter season when you have lots of different basketball teams occupying the gym. It's difficult to have time for much else. We add court space here. I think that's going to improve our ability to do that. So hopefully, whether it's people with special needs, whether it's some intramural programming in the school, that would certainly be a goal that we have.
I think, too, it's worth noting, and you alluded to it a little bit ago, Phil, but we started a project this week out at City High at the auditorium to make that more accessible, so that even the far end of the building, fine arts is already accessible, but the auditorium not so much, so we're improving that. And then at the new end, you're going to have the ramp you can use, the lower level, the elevator, so both levels of the commons, both levels of the gym, all levels of the school will be accessible when we're done. So I think it's going to be a huge improvement.
Also, on that seating, in the new gym in this plan, there actually is seating for people in wheelchairs or whatnot, whereas the current new gym has no seating, and they're kind of stuck in the corners and, you know, pushed out of the way, where now they can be with friends and family.
Yeah. Speaking of seats, how many seats will this gym hold?
We're right around 2,000.
And what was our average attendance at basketball games?
I know you'd asked that question early in the week, Phil, and I checked with the athletic directors, still working on participation numbers for some of those questions. I'm waiting on one high school to get back to me, but as far as attendance at events, we don't really track attendance or have any data on that. I can probably tell you Mr. Bacon and Mr. Coleman could give you anecdotal evidence of how full that gym is, though.
I would say that certainly when it's a big game, we have issues. We have a system developed where we use the old gym for waiting, standing room only. People leave, we let more people in. Now, I'm not going to tell you that's every game, absolutely not, but that's City West sometimes, so that is an issue. The other thing that's relevant here would be just having a space that's truly large enough to have our entire student body in it. We are, every once in a while, we'll have a pep rally at City High School, and when we do, we are, well, I don't want to say we're out of compliance with the fire code. I guess I'm not 100% sure about that. It's possible. It's possible. But I will tell you that we have kids on the floor. It is not sufficient to house our student body, and it will be now. So that's another, not something that happens all the time, but several times a year, and it's nice to have a space like the other two schools that will allow us to do that.
Right, but your enrollment numbers are going to be going down with the expansion of Liberty. I mean, what your enrollment right now is at what?
1,600 plus.
Okay, and that's what you're expecting for next year as well? Okay. Well, I have to keep reminding myself we're a K-12 educational institution and not a sports franchise, especially when comments like college area, college feel, Hall of Fame, all of those things. It's all well and good, but and personally, I would like more than hope that career and technical will be addressed. And we've got district numbers where we have Black and Hispanic students that their proficiency is 30-40% in math. And at a time when we have educational needs, and a discussion on Southeast, the comment was made that libraries are getting smaller, but gyms and athletic facilities are getting bigger and better. I wonder if our priorities are in the right place. And I am all for, if this were to bring about physical education every day for every student, you'd really get me. But when it is once a trimester, and if you have a full schedule, you can opt out of it. And if you're in sports, which you're using the facilities that way, you get away from it. I have a real concern that we're putting a lot of money into priorities of things that have questionable true educational benefit. and that. I also, and I'll say this and state my piece, I have a real problem when the district has denied the voting rights of everyone in the district prior to this, and this is going forward. Although this does not impede anything on the Hoover property, this is all on City High and everything that way, but it hinges on the decimation of a $14 million asset. So when we say there's a $30 million budget on this, there's also the parking and the tennis courts on the other one, plus demolishing a $14 million asset. And I don't think you look at it as as one of the commenters said, that it has no use or no value. It does, and it's a very well functioning elementary school and meets a lot of our goals. I like I say, I have challenges with it. I appreciate everything you put into it. I appreciate that there's appears to be a serious commitment to ADA compliance and everything that way, and that is a driving force of it. I don't like that the first thing you see coming up is an overhead door on that one wall, or the fact that we're storing garbage inside the building, as opposed to, as our IPM has taught us that that's not the best policy. I appreciate those questions that I submitted earlier, getting those back and everything along those lines. Thank you.
Before we go on, Lori, Steve, can maybe you address one thing that Phil brought up and also that Chip addressed, and that is the pending lawsuit and what you can talk about it, because I think Phil kind of brought it up, but there's two sides, and I think the judge actually ruled that we didn't deny the rights because they're still going to vote on this. So if you could just clear that up and maybe answer Chip's question at the same time.
Sure. So the resolution is that the issue will be on the ballot in front of voters in November of 19, and they will have the opportunity to vote and forward that vote to you. As an elected body, you will then have the opportunity to consider that vote when you make a final determination in terms of the next steps for that particular parcel.
For clarification, you're right, Paul, the court did order us to allow to be placed on the ballot.
So let's just do a hypothetical. Let's just say, however things turn out, Hoover doesn't get demolished. What's the plan B for parking? Because you're going to lose about 55 or so spots. 28. Total 28?
We'll be losing it. We'll have a net deficit
The net
of 28.
is 28, okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've just had the experience of parking at City, and that's 20, it's a lot. I mean, there's not enough. So is there any thought, like, what is even possible on the current site? Or?
I think without reconfiguration of adjacent parcels, the answer is no.
Okay.
Lori.
Okay, since we're going down the line here, beautiful plan, thank you. Thank you for all the work, and thank you for the time spent with the community and the teachers and the staff. This is a very minor comment, so please bear with me, but all of the decor in the commons area by the cafeteria is athletic-based. Can we make it more than just athletic-based?
I think that's just for the very purposes of this presentation. In no way does that reflect. I would absolutely insist that that be reflective of our entire high school. So
okay, thank you.
100% agree with you. I had the same thought. And I think if you walk through our building and you see our pictures we have in the hallways, you'll see a commitment to that, representing, reflecting diversity and all the various activities that our program provides. And that's what you'll see in the new.
Okay, yeah, and I just feel that way because this is an entryway into the school for a lot of people that aren't familiar with City High, and I want them to see all the great things that happen at City High and all the great students. And also, I don't want the students to walk away with a message that may just be a subliminal message that if I'm not in athletics and I'm not star of the team, I'm no good. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Comments, questions?
I have a couple questions about the patio area, or the plaza, right? Is that what we're calling it? One, there's been a lot of talk about accessibility. There's a upper plaza. Is that only accessible by that little stairs that have the 2 levels?
Yeah, right now we're still determining what that elevation difference needs to be in order to accommodate the kitchen equipment below that area. If we can get all the kitchen equipment in, we'll try to make that all one level for that plaza. If we can't, then we'll have to raise it up a little bit, and we're going to try to find a way to make that accessible as well, so that if you would like to go to that upper level, you have the opportunity to. At this point, I just don't know what that elevation difference is yet.
I mean, I don't know what it'll be like, fighting for seating, right? And if part of it's not available for some
Right,
kids,
exactly.
you're limited. And along with that, and to Paul's point, it's a nice, pretty view as you look down there into the tower, and there's doors there to go in, but I'm wondering if you're going out there, like during the day to eat or whatever, do you have to go all the way back around to the front entrance? Is it the only one that you can get in and out of, or?
Well, we're still working with the district administration, or with the school administration, to determine, do we want students out there at lunchtime? If so, how do they get out there and how do they get back in? What are some strategies we can use? Do we need to have, a gate system? Do we just unlock those during certain times and use staff out there to let students back and forth? So still working through the details of how that could operate, or
I would
should
think it'd be a
operate.
pretty hot commodity at lunchtime to
I
be
think
able
so.
to go out there. So I'd be interested in hearing how we make that work, because I think that would be a great space for that.
Right.
It's our intention to have that open during lunch in nice weather, and we'll figure out a way to make sure that works.
I'll only just, this looks, I think this looks really nice. I think it does incorporate, I'm really trying to keep my eye on, does this match up, so it doesn't look like this brand new thing. And I could probably point out some tiny, super nitpicky things, but I'm not an architect. I think it looks great. I love the functionality. I do. I love the 2 entrances at the gym. The outdoor seating, obviously lunch has been a problem for a long time, and I would echo Lori's comment and what you said too, John, about not, this being purely athletics, because City High obviously has many, many great accomplishments. So
Speak to it, so I will, but that front entrance, that tower matches what's out there. It really helps tie that all together.
Well, I was going to ask, but it's not an exact match. Is there a reason it's not exactly the same? Does it not?
Well,
I thought that was a little too
I think the intention is
nitpicky,
that it's a secondary element. We don't want it to be exactly the same, because we want it to be,
Something else.
there's the main tower, this is a
Here's the other
secondary. So what we'll look at is all the detailing that's in the original. We'll take some pieces and parts of that, but we're not going to make it as big, the
Sure.
same scale, or as important.
I like the term deferential to the original. Yeah. Please.
Okay, I have a few comments, and like John, when we were in school together, I'm a graduate of City High in 1994. I also have a daughter who will be a freshman there this year, which is still kind of a little crazy to me. But so I've been around this school for a long time. I've been in this district for 37 years now. And there's just some minor things in here. I think the design is great, personally. There's some minor things in here that maybe the general public may not recognize or notice, but things that jumped out on me, and they're kind of silly. But, our current competition gym right now, the public restrooms, I don't know what the women's story is, but I always know there's a line outside of it. But in the men's, there's 2 urinals and a stall, right? 1 stall, 2 urinals for the entire public to use. If you look at the plans in here, that's for at least the men, that's like 8 times as great. So, one, there won't be any lines out there. And if you think about how many people go to these competitions, not only the ones that City High hosts, but the youth tournaments on the weekends, the dance shows, the performances that they put on, all those things, just that little small thing is a great improvement, for one. 2, adding the seating into the wrestling room, again, is another huge thing. The parents that go now either have to sit against the wall or sit out in the gym where they can't see their kids at all either. So to have that space in there, I think is pretty unique. Also, the locker room space, having the current locker rooms, as you mentioned, even when we were there, I think the new gym housed juniors and seniors, and the old gym had freshmen and sophomores. I don't know if that's still the same way anymore for gym classes purposes or not, but to have the larger space in there, I think is really great. I did ask Steve previously, the talk of the term commons versus the cafeteria. I was pleased that you guys discussed that, because in the language, of course, we said we were going to renovate the cafeteria or add cafeteria space. So I do like the phrase commons, because I think that space, as you see at Liberty, where that's the cafeteria, but it's also the common space. And just last night, our safety committee meeting, which Greg Schultz was talking about their cafeteria, how it's going to be used even more now by students throughout the day. So to have those 3 spaces, I think, is excellent. I also think it's important to point out that this is phase 2 for City High in the facility master plan. So as Dwayne mentioned, phase 1 did deal with a lot of academic spaces. I do think sports and PE is an academic endeavor, but phase 2 is obviously focusing a little bit more on athletics because those spaces are big, so it looks like the focus is on athletics. But phase 2 at Liberty is completely athletics, and phase 2, are we at 2 at West or 1? 3? At West High.
At West High, phase 2 is all
Fa-
academics.
Yeah, phase 2 is, but the current phase is phase 1, and it has some cafeteria
And gymnasium.
and gymnasium as well. So I think it's just important to point out this is every school has been getting this in phases, and this is the time for City High to have theirs. Phil and I will go back and forth on this a lot. As we've stated, I do think athletics plays a very important role in student athletes' path through high school. Personally, I did not participate in music or arts. When I look back, I wish I would have, but I did participate in athletics, and that was my thing for team building and making sure that I had a not only myself, but you had to maintain a grade point average. You had to do all that stuff as well. I mean, sports play a very important role to kids throughout their high school endeavor and below. So we're not necessarily placing it above anything else. I think arts and academics and music is just as important. And I just wanted to put that out there. But overall, I think this design is great. So I appreciate it.
A little side note for you. As much as I'd love to give these 2 credit for adding all the restroom spaces, we have a state plumbing code that we have to deal with.
And what we have now.
And so they will dictate numbers. We have state and local codes for ADA, national codes that we deal with. So a lot of these things weren't in place in the 30s for sure, or even in subsequent editions. So a lot of these things are mandated. They look good. They're great. And I'll give them all the credit, but we have to do a lot of them. So.
Also, the gym, the old gym being converted in for dance and cheer space. I mean, currently your dance and cheerleaders either use the cafeteria, right, or open hallway space. And obviously, cafeteria is not the ideal place to be doing gymnastics, or not gymnastics, but cheerleading practice when you have, towers and whatnot. So I do appreciate the effort to focus on those 2 areas as well.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify, I am not against sports. Sports were very important when I went through school. But when we look at how we're allocating the community's funds, we can have Ferrari facilities or we can have Ford facilities. And I go completely against the assertion that you only have team spirit and camaraderie and excellence with Ferrari facilities, because I've experienced in facilities that which were adequate and were not every other place we competed was better than us, but we still competed, and I still feel my experience was no less diminished. And again, I will say that in the when it's a hope of providing curriculum that was spoken to tonight in community comments, that we're hoping to bring that back, I would like to see a greater commitment. And just one quick question, and it has to do with a community commenter, the tree issue, and I believe it was 303 3rd Street. Do you have any clarity on that or anything more on that?
Yeah, I can elaborate a little on that. We've actually had our in-house tree expert, Jess Holland, who is a good tree man, look at those, and most of those are arborvitae, and most of those have lived their life cycle. And we're going to replace them or keep a few that can be kept. We're going to actually add to it with that landscape buffer area. So I think in the end, it may take a few years of growth, but not unlike that we did along the parking lot, the student lot, where a couple years ago, we took all the arborvitae down, put new ones up. Same thing is going to happen here, but it will take a few years, but it will look just magnificent. And I don't think I'm out of school if I say to you that we're working on the next 10-year facility master plan. We've been putting together ideas and thoughts, picking up loose ends. One of those loose ends is career tech at City High. The great thing about this plan, from my perspective, is it creates the space. The space is there. All we have to do is finish it off on the inside. So you're actually a step ahead where you might be if you had no additional space to work with. So I think that's a positive part of this plan as well.
Maybe one other note to add is that after meeting with community members, one of the things that we talked to the design team about was making sure that that access road, rather than being between the school and the property line, is as close to the school as we can get it, which provides a bigger green space buffer between that access road and the property line. So if you remember looking at that slide, it shows the road being fairly close to the building, and that was very intentional to make sure that we can set that as close to the building and as far away from the property line as we could. That gives it as much of a buffer as we can do and still be compliant with fire code.
Thank you. I'd like to echo my thanks to the entire team. John, for your team's input. The design, I think, does meet the character of the historic building and gives it a modern flair. I think it solves many of the design challenges you were given, and I think we're ready to vote. Is there a motion to approve Appendix 9?
I move we approve Appendix 9 as presented.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries, with Directors Rotland, Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the public hearings. First up is the Tate High Addition Project.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the Tate High School Addition Project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on July 10th, 2018. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on July 11th, 2018. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. on July 31st, 2018, at the Educational Services Center located at 1725 North Dodge Street, Iowa City, Iowa 52245. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on July 11th, 2018. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? Hearing none, we will close this public hearing.
Thank you. Next up is the NCJH School Addition Project, public hearing.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the North Central Junior High School Addition Project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on June 26, 2018. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on July 27, 2018. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. on August 2nd, 2018, at the Educational Services Center located at 1725 North Dodge Street, Iowa City, Iowa 52245. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on June 27, 2018. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. Do you want someone else to read the next one?
I'm wondering if we could combine them. Any questions from the public? Declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you. Next up, Twain Elementary 1 Classroom Addition, public hearing.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the Twain Elementary 1 Classroom Addition Project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on June 26, 2018. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on June 27, 2018. The district will receive bids on this project at 2:30 p.m. on August 2nd, 2018, at the Educational Services Center located at 1725 North Dodge Street, Iowa City, Iowa 52245. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on June 27, 2018. Are there any questions from the board? Questions from the public? This public hearing is closed.
Thank you, Lori. Moving on to agenda setting for the August 14th meeting. presentations, quarterly financial report, equity committee update are the two primary topics in addition to consent agenda. I would like to suggest adding an action item on superintendent contract. We hopefully will be able to have that vote at the next board meeting. Any other agenda items?
If we could have just a very small, brief update on the meeting with on the ag curriculum. There was some information there that I think would be good to get out to the public.
Okay, thank you.
It would not take a lot of time.
But is that a presentation or a discussion item?
I defer to Matt. Yeah, I think it'd just be a presentation.
Yeah, it's probably not a big presentation, but we could provide the progress update and kind of next steps.
Thank you. Anything else? We also have a work session scheduled for that meeting as well. I think probably we'll refine that agenda once we get through this next work session following this meeting. Very good. With that concludes our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.